What is something about yourself that sounds totally made up but is 100% real? When I was 9, I found this old rusty key buried in our backyard while helping my dad plant tomatoes. It was heavy, thick, and had these weird designs carved into it. Dad laughed and said it was probably from some old shed or something, but I was obsessed with it. I carried that thing everywhere like it was made of gold. My parents were going through a rough patch that year. They'd argue about money every night after dinner, and I could hear Mom crying in the kitchen sometimes. I felt so helpless as a kid, you know? So I'd sit in my room turning that key over and over in my hands, wishing I could magically fix everything for them. A few weeks later, our school had this field trip to the town history museum. I almost didn't go because it sounded boring, but my teacher, Mrs. Wilson, said we'd get extra credit. The museum was this old building downtown that smelled like dust and had creaky wooden floors. Most of my classmates were bored out of their minds, but I actually thought some of the old stuff was pretty cool. We were looking at this exhibit about the town's founding families when I froze. There was this wooden chest behind glass about the size of a shoebox with this brass lock on the front. The keyhole looked exactly like my key. I mean, exactly. My hands started shaking as I stared at it. The museum guide, this older lady named Janet, was explaining how they'd found the chest in an old house basement years ago, but they'd never been able to open it because the original key was lost. She said it had been sitting there locked for over 100 years, and they had no idea what was inside. My heart was pounding so hard I thought everyone could hear it. I slowly pulled the key from my pocket, and my friend Tyler next to me was like, "Dude, what are you doing?" The whole class was watching as I walked up to Janet and showed her the key. She looked at it, then at the chest, then back at the key. Her eyes went wide and she called over the museum director, this guy named Frank who looked like he hadn't smiled in 20 years. He examined my key under a magnifying glass and started getting really excited. They opened the display case right there in front of everyone. My hands were trembling as I slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. When I turned it, there was this satisfying click that echoed through the whole room. Inside the chest were these old letters tied with ribbon, some faded photographs, and at the bottom, 5 gold coins that looked ancient. The museum staff went absolutely crazy. Frank was on his phone calling people, and Janet was taking pictures of everything. Turns out the chest belonged to one of the town's original founding families from the 1800s. The letters were love notes between a husband and wife, and the photographs showed their family. But those gold coins, they were worth serious money, like life-changing money. The museum called in historians and appraisers, and it became this huge deal. Local news crews showed up, and I had to do interviews where I felt super awkward on camera. The chest and everything in it was worth way more than anyone expected. Not just because of the gold, but because of how rare and well-preserved everything was. After weeks of legal stuff and paperwork that I didn't understand, the town decided to give my family a percentage of the value for finding and unlocking it. It was enough money to pay off all of Mom and Dad's debts, fix our roof that had been leaking for 2 years, and even start a college fund for me. My parents completely stopped fighting after that.